Welcome, Jake, to Metaladium website. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Cyhra, this new album, and what is related to the metal world. So, first of all, how are you? How was the band been Cyhra been during these years?
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all. And Cyhra has been doing great. Unfortunately, we had this pandemic that struck each and every one of us in the music business in general. But for us, it was a little bit tougher because we decided to not really do anything during the pandemic. Now, afterwards, looking back, I would say that it was probably not the wisest of decisions, but at the moment, I just felt that I did not want to release anything that we could not tour with because I just didn't want to release something in the middle of the pandemic and then time would pass and then you would write yet another album and then that album in between would just fall away from people's attention. Economically, I would say, and also attentionally, to be in people's minds, it would have probably have been smarter to actually do something during the pandemic. But yeah, I cannot change time, but that is what it is. But now we're finally here and we're finally having our new album, and I can't wait to have it out because I think it's a killer album, and I hope that everyone is gonna like it.
Okay. So it has been almost 4 years since your last album. So when did you begin to work on these new songs and this new album?
I think I took the first year during the pandemic, like 2020, 2019, I think it was, right? Uh, Completely off, did a lot of other things. I produced other people. I wrote a lot of songs for others. But it was not until like 2021 that I started to finally, start doing some Cyhra songs. And the album was actually done 22. So 22, like I think September last year, the album was done, and we released the first single, "Ready to Rumble." I think it was September or October last year. But then everything in the business has been crazy. I mean, like all the festivals that were booked prior to the pandemic, they were full, and then they could not do the next year and the next year. So everything, the whole touring cycles and the venues and the festivals, everything was booked. So we just realized that if we release anything in the beginning now of 2023, like January, we would not have any possibilities to book any shows because everything is already filled up from previous years. So we decided to postpone the release of the album to now because then we have a honorable chance to actually, be able to book things for next year.
Okay, okay. So, why do you call this album the Vertigo Trigger? What can you tell about? What can you tell us about the lyrics and the new record?
The lyrics on this album is actually extremely personal from my own perspective. Usually, when I write lyrics, I always, write about things that others has experienced or that people in general can experience or just made up contents about whatever. But on this album I actually dig down deep into myself, and the pandemic really brought back horrible stuff in myself, like death anxiety, that has been this thing that has been bugging me since I was just a little kid. And I finally just told myself that why, yeah, if you have these problems, why don't you write it down? So I wrote a lot about that anxiety and the problems with, existential problems that you're facing yourself as you get older and you have kids and stuff like that. So there's many of the songs that are touching the subject of, you know, this feeling that you cannot do anything about. Everyone is going to die one day, and I don't want to do that. So uh, it's a lot about that. And the title of the album was actually something that my manager Adam Sowell brought up because I have one song where I'm talking about vertigo, and he read the lyrics and he said that why don't you call the album the Vertigo Trigger? It can mean so many things. Um, and it's a great title to describe what the album is about. So, and it's also three-dimensional. You could see the album titles in so many ways. So yeah, I thought that was a great idea. So I decided to take his idea and call the album that.
Mm, okay. Every album is special for a musicians or composers. So what does this new album means to you?
I would see it a little bit as a comeback, because with Cyhra, everything took off immediately when we founded the band, when we started the band. A lot thanks, a lot, because we are already, known musicians in the band, obviously, and a lot of people found us directly, either through me or Jesper or Oige or Alex. But we started directly a couple of steps up on the ladder, if you understand what I mean. Got big festival shows. We got great tours. We were touring with Battle Beast and Sabaton and bands like that, and everything went straight up. The second album, the No Halos in Hell, got fantastic reviews. 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 from some places, and we had a great following live and so on. And now the pandemic came, and with this album now, it feels a little bit like, we need to prove ourselves that we are still here to stay. And people haven't heard about anything from us in like 3-4 years now. So it's a bit of a comeback album
Really?
that I feel that we have totally made an album that I think is going to be as good or even better than the predecessors that we've already released. And I love the album, and I can't wait to have people's opinion about it and hear what people says about it. But that's how I feel, and I can't wait to go out and tour on it.
Yes, yes. And what the aspects of the Vertigo Trigger, especially, I'm very curious about the cover art. How did you choose this cover art? Because it's very interesting one.
Yeah, the cover artwork is done by Gustavo Sachs. He's a Brazilian guy living in Portugal. He was the guy that made all the Amaranth covers back in the days. He continued to work with me with Cyhra. He was the one that decided that our Eddie, so to say, is going to be the skeleton guy or the skull guy. And so the skull is something that is that we bring with us on all the covers. But you could see that this guy is, like, he's doing like that. And as I told you, it has a lot to do with death anxiety. And now you see a skeleton that has anxiety. So it's like, I think that Gustavo captured my lyrics in a fantastic way on the cover. I think the cover artwork is fantastic.
Mm, okay. One aspect that I like about your melodic approach in your music is the way you manage to achieve memorable chorus or melodies in your songs. I can remember how many times I have listened, especially the single, the first song from the album, Ready to Rumble. For example, no? How do you work during the composition process in order to achieve this? How do you know how do you know that you have the correct melodies? Because as a musician, you feel music in a different way when you play the song with a musical instrument compared to the way we listeners and experience the songs.
Yeah, that is actually a really great question of you. And so for me, it has always been extremely important when I'm writing music that it needs to have a hook. It needs to be something that you could sing along to. Even though I like a lot of music that is not sing alongable, if that is a word, but coming from Sweden, growing up with ABBA, Roxette, Max Martin, and all these things. I mean, like, I think it's somewhat in our way of writing music up in the north that you rely a lot of the melodies. You want something to you want to hear a song, and when you turn it off, you should be able to hum it afterwards, if you understand what I mean. But for me, when I compose, the melodies are always what makes is the most important thing. So usually for me, I put up a chord track with just a chord structure, and I do a melody over it, and then I change the chords, and then I do another melody, and I redo that until I finally think that this is what it should be like. And when I have the melody, then I start to compose the music together, which is going to lift the melody even more. And after that, I add words to the melody, but the words needs to match the melody. I am never, I never take the words so that the words have a greater meaning than the melody, if you understand what I mean.
Mhm.
Um, so I always make sure that the melody is the focus point, and then I have to write words um, that fits into the whole thing, so that everything is like smooth and sing alongable. I make up a lot of new words here, I think.
Okay, okay. Another aspect that I found interesting in your music is that we can recognize elements from your previous bands, but we can recognize your music. So, do you think that has its own sound at this point of your career?
I absolutely think that Cyhra has its own sound because I don't know any other band that sounds like we do. I mean, like we are never trying to copy anyone else, or we don't listen to others and you're like, oh, we want to sound more like this or that, or we just write our stuff. But obviously, coming from, I mean, like I was one of the main writers in Amaranth, and the reason why Amaranth sounded like it does is because that is the way that I write music. The reason why In Flames sounds like it does is was because Jesper wrote the songs, and that's his way of writing music. And when we combined those two things together, of course, you would hear resemblance from our old stuff, but that has nothing to do with our previous bands. It's just the way that we write music and what we think is important. It's just like someone painting picture, take whoever that is making art. I mean, like you could instantly see that it's a Picasso or a Monet because they have different ways of expressing their way of painting a picture. But you see directly how they make their strokes, and that is the same thing with songwriting. I think that you will always uh, hear that, okay, this must be Jake, or this must be Jesper, or this is Dave Mustaine, or this is Kirk Hammett, or Lars Ulrich for that is, like you instantly hear who it is. And I think
Yes,
that is
yes.
a good thing.
Okay, okay. Nowadays, in the metal rock scene, bands are mixing different musical styles without any problem. In your music, we can recognize different elements, and I think your sound is modern and melodic, even with all the classic elements we can feel in your music. So, when people ask you about the music style of Cyhra, what would be your answer?
That is the funny thing because since I started to become a professional musician like 20 years ago, I have always replied that to me, music is good music, bad music is bad music. And I have never really liked to categorize music. I have never felt the urge to put music in a specific drawer. Uh, I never understood the urge from people to say that I'm listening to speed metal or thrash metal or power metal or death metal or melodic metal or female metal or male metal or whatever. For me, we play rock music that is we have real instruments, real guitars, real singing. We play heavy music with melodies, but I understand people like you on the other side because like you want to categorize it and also fans wants to categorize it because fans think like this. And I was like that back in the days when I was a big record collector. I mean, like if I saw a review of a band and it would say power metal, oh great, I'm gonna check them out. But if it would say techno metal, I would probably not even care to listen to it. So it is a little bit of a stamp when you put things in a drawer. It is to point fans towards your band. I understand that, but I think that Cyhra is a band that is breaking genres. I think that people that are listening to power metal can absolutely like Cyhra. I think that people that loves ACDC or Motorhead could absolutely love Cyhra. And I think that people that loves um, more modern bands like I Prevail or Bring Me the Horizon can love Cyhra. So I think that we are a great mixture in our music that can attract a lot of different fans from people that are usually listening to other kind of music.
No, okay, okay. When we search for Cyhra on internet, it is common to find the expression supergroup or super band. So, what is your opinion
Yeah,
about this expression? So, did this make you feel more pressure when you have to compose music because of people's expectations?
I mean, oh, sorry, uh, my lamp is going berserk here in the background. Uh, of course, we ourselves have never said that we are a super group. That is something that has been um, put together by journalists and people that wants to sell magazines or whatever. But obviously, I can understand that. But I mean, like, we are all known musicians from, and we have success in the metal industry from various other bands prior to that, of course. But I don't care about the pronoun super group, but of course you don't, it doesn't matter if you're in a super group, so to say, or if you're just in whatever band, you never want to release music that is bad. I mean, like, um and that is obviously subjective to whatever, whoever listens to it. I mean, like, um we could have two different people listening to the music, and one can say I love this, and one can say no, this is the worst shit I ever heard. So but you yourself is, of course, you want to please people and you want people to listen to it, but in the end of the day, I write music that I could listen to myself. I mean, like,
Hmm.
and I am my worst enemy because I am so hard on myself when I write music. I redo and redo and redo and redo so much just until I am happy with the result. So I am probably the worst critic in the world when it comes to my own music.
Okay. Now we're very close to this interview, Jake. And for this aspect, what kind of plans do you have for this new album? Perhaps you will embark. Well, you told me that this album will release and you will prepare tours for the next year, 2014. But perhaps you have some already other plans on videos, other kind of aspects. Who knows? Who knows? Depends.
There's gonna be one more single released. Hopefully with a new video that we're working on right now. We are planning on touring Europe, US, hopefully South America, Australia. We're going to come back to Japan again, and hopefully a lot of summer festivals next year. So there's a lot of work um, on the line. But you never know. Right now, we cannot say anything, but hopefully we're going to come out with great news about touring soon. But I hope that we're going to be crossing all the usual continents that we usually play in. And I can't wait to come out and see the fans again because it's been way too long since we toured last.
Okay. Talking about other aspects in the music industry, it is now trendy to talk about artificial intelligence in its impact and art in general. So nowadays you
Yeah.
can do a lot of things with this technology, from composing to designing an artwork for an album, or even recreate the voice of a vocalist in order to make any cover you can imagine. So what's your opinion about this? Do you see yourself using this technology in the future?
I have been using some, I've been trying out some of Adobe's, stuff. And I must say that what I like with it is that you can generate ideas so that your mind puts on, yeah, that is the way you can do it, and then you do it from scratch in the computer. So you could use this artificial intelligence to speed up your own mind process, so to say. But when it comes to this AI thing, when it comes to acting or script writing or lyric writing, or even these bands that has, I saw in Norway a couple of months back, the song that topped the list was an AI generated song. And I mean, like, that is crazy. Of course, if people starts to listen to this AI generated music thing, that is going to kill off so much, work for so many people. So I would say that it has great possibilities for the future, also when it comes to, medication, medicine, science, whatever. But it can also be devastating on the other side. So I would think that in the next coming year, I think that we would see a lot of regulations on how AI is going to be used. Actually, I would think that it's going to be a way more regulated market than it is now. But also, I am not up-read on the subject as many of my friends are. So I have just touched a tiny, tiny bit on the surface on it. So I am not the right person to ask about it.
Okay, okay. Coming from bands like In Flames, as you told me, and Amarante at the same time, probably it would have been easy for you to stay in those bands because those are big names in the metal scene nowadays. But you decide to follow your own path and start again with Cyhra without just copying your
Yeah.
previous without just copying your previous bands, which is more difficult. So, what is your idea to being successful at this point of your career?
Um, can you explain that question just a tiny little bit more so that I understand
So,
it?
for you, how can you explain the successful things in a musical career, especially when you did you with Amarante and Jesper did In Flames?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I mean, before we did In Flames or before we did Amaranth, we had tons of bands that we did not success with. We were walking on landmines for so many years before we actually managed to get a success with either In Flames or Amaranth. I mean, like we all did. We had a long learning curve. We released many albums with other bands and that did not succeeded. So like we learned a lot along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, thanks to that we had successes with these bands, we also have a great network of people around us that it's always this thing. I mean, like, first of all, it's really hard to come to the inner circle uh, in any business, even if you're a web designer or game designer or uh, doctor or whatever. But while you're coming inside, uh, you know you are connected with the whole business and the whole so there's always people around you now that is on a higher level than it was when you were 18 years old and you had no idea on even how to reach out to a record label. Now record labels are in your phone book. Now you could call any record label because you know the guys there. And so that is obviously an easier thing, but that comes with experience. But and in the end, I mean, if you are producing shit, no one is going to touch it. So you always have to prove that you have good enough material and a good enough idea of what you want to produce and what you want to release to make that a success. And just because for us, for example, we are famous a musician in a band, obviously, but that does not mean that we are going to be successful because of that, because we are not the deciding part. It's the fans that are the deciding parts. If the fans doesn't like what we're doing, no one is going to listen to it and we are going to flop. So uh, you could do so much with your own experience and with your own network, but when at the end of the day, it's the fans that are deciding if anything is good or bad.
Okay. Well, Jake, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. Terrific guy. Love your
It was
previous records
fantastic.
and what? Oh,
It was
love your
fantastic to talk to you. Yeah.
love your previous records. This new one is amazing one. So perhaps you wanna add something to your Latin American fans and Metalero followers.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say that we've been trying to come to Latin America so many times. We were supposed to come in 2019, but everything got vanished because of the pandemic. I can't wait till the day when we're finally coming to play in that part of the world because me myself personally has never been in Latin America. The only place that I've been, the southest part on the American continent is Mexico. So I really want to come and play there. So a shout out to everyone that does not know about Cyhra. Give it a spin, and if you like it, push everyone to make sure that the promoters are going to come and take us there.